Okay, good morning. So, what is it? Model Cars and Coffee. You can see I already need my coffee. So, while I'm drinking coffee, let's show off a model that I have. I pulled this out of the case today. It's a Whopper. And it does have a cut, it's in a glass case, but no matter what you do, you're going to get dust in there. And I've had this for several years. And this kit took about a year off and on to build. So, because it was a little bit out of my wheelhouse, so to speak, but it was different, but I've always been a fan. So I'll show you this kit here. This is a Italeri 135th scale PT boat. I've always been a fan of the PT boats. And when they came out with this kit, the older kits like the Lindbergh or whatever it was, I think they made one in 172 or they made one that was motorized. And probably back in the 80s, not the 80s, 70s, I built one. And I actually used batteries in the motors and motorized it and used it in a relative who had a swimming pool. And it worked actually pretty good. That boat, you could put it in the water, set it up, and let it go. So it worked very good, even though it was a model kit. It was a plastic model kit. It just motorized. I don't know what scale it was, but it was pretty big. Not as big as this one, but probably the biggest one that Lindbergh had at the time. Because I think they made more than one scale of PT boats. So this one is 135. I want to say it's about almost 2 feet long. It wasn't hard to put together. It was a very, very well made kit. But I had to paint the pattern on it. All that's done by hand. Up here also you can see some of the camouflage up there. And then each individual piece, and I have a couple books on PT boats, and that helped. Some books and magazines. And it just had a pretty fair amount of detail, but it had a lot of parts, of course. So, but I enjoyed building it. I still have the kit. And if I still have the kit, it probably has some kind of importance. So this is what it is. It has a figure. You can just barely see his head there. I only used him for scale because I would take the Sense of the Office a couple times over many years after I built it. But it's hard to get a sense of how big this boat was without something to go by. So by using a figure in there, I just painted him all tan because that's all he is in there for, is for scale. So that's why the figure is the way he is, and that's why there's a figure in it. So, and then you have all these different things. You can have the hatches posed open. You have some multi-guns. The rockets go around. I believe they would mount them that way when they fired. And pretty much that's it. There's a piece here that broke off sometime over the years, this bar. I don't have the directions anymore or anything, so I wouldn't even know where to make another one. I wouldn't even know how to run it. Then it has a cable that goes along this here. And that came with the kit, I believe. And the thing about PT boats is, unless you have an interest in them, PT boats are made out of plywood. So that meant that they were very easy to repair if they were damaged, because you didn't have to do any necessarily welding or anything like that. It was all plywood. They were also easy, like if they were going to be captured or something like that, they were very easy to set fire to, because they would totally burn and sink because it was all made out of wood. So very easy to scuttle if you needed to. So just so your enemy didn't get a hold of it. And so I'm sorry, I'll turn that around there, a little shaky. These are the mufflers here. The reason I had a muffler is because if you wanted to run more or less silent, you could reroute with these right here, these would reroute the exhaust underwater. So that would, but of course when they didn't need to run silent, the exhaust would come out here at the top. So I believe. But anyway, that's what those are for. The mufflers are mounted on the back. They run the exhaust down underneath the water. So PT boats didn't have a reverse necessarily either, in the sense that if this was the captain or the skipper or whatever they had, if he wanted to go in reverse, he couldn't do it from here. He had to tell the head mechanic or engineer or whatever he was called. Down here they had 3 Packard V12 engines in these. They both each one of them made around 1,200 horsepower or more. So he would have to tell him to. There was a big lever they would use, and they would have to basically change the transmission and make it in reverse. So other than that, the boat could, I believe he could handle the throttle and stuff like that, or maybe some other things, but that, and steered of course. But that's why when Kennedy was on the PT boat and they were hit by a Japanese destroyer, they were both running at night and both running more or less silent. I think his PT boat was sitting still. I'm not even sure if it was actually running. And then the ship hit him. But from what I understand, I'd have to look it up again because it's been many years since I've read anything about it. But he saw the ship, but he was unable to put the ship. He saw the destroyer coming in the dark in the night, but he's unable to put the boat in reverse. He had to call down to do that, and that delay was just enough to where they still got hit. So, and you gotta realize that in World War II, many things were built very fast, very quickly in a short time, and they were very basic. And we're going to spend a lot of time making all kinds of fancy things because they were basically all disposable. It didn't matter if it was a tank, a plane, or a boat. They were all disposable. So they weren't going to build anything that was going to last more than, it might not even last 6 months. Because once it was built, shipped overseas and got over to Europe or over, to the islands before Japan, it might be in action 2 days and destroyed. That'd be it. So they never built anything to last. So they weren't going to make everything complicated. And that's why it had the system it had. They were just putting 3 engines in the back of this plywood boat. It looks good to me. Stick it out there. Let's go. So that's what they did. But this is a good model. If you wanted to build a PT boat and you wanted to spend the money, you would enjoy putting this boat together. If I remember right, there's a photo etched sheet that comes with it. I'm pretty sure there was. So, but I originally, when I was going to build this boat, I was actually going to remove these hatches and put 3 Packard engines in there so that you could remove it and see the engines. But I could not find, this is, back then, I mean, this when this kit first came out, and this was the first PT version that they came out with. And I think it's the PT596. And I'm looking at the decal on the back. But that's what I was going to do. But I couldn't find a Packard engine in 1/35th scale that I could use. Now there probably is one in 3D printing and stuff like that. But back then I would have had to hand make it from scratch. And I just wasn't. I was already spending a year building it. I wasn't going to go that far. But that was my ambition when I originally bought the kit. So I would just remove this hatch and remove this hatch. Like they were working on it and they had just installed the engines or something like that, because I thought it'd be more impressive if you could see the engines. So anyway, this morning coffees and models, and I hope you liked it. It was something different, and there we go. I think I'm gonna drink some more coffee, and start working on those other 3 cars. And now I got to find a place for this and fit it back inside the model case and hide it. But thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later.